This is a Let's Talk Church Safety and Security microsode with your host, Paul Buckner.
Hey, sheepdog. So I got a test for your situational awareness, and I like this test. So being situationally aware buys us seconds that can buy us time to call 911. It can buy us time to prepare defense, to go into lockdown at our church, years ago, somebody was falling, and I literally dove and hit the ground and was able to catch their head before it hit the concrete. I was a teenager at the time, but so those reflexes may not be what they once were, but being able to very, very quickly look at a situation and realize, hey, I need to make some changes here, and I need to do so in a hurry, that's situational awareness. And I think a test for how far out your situational awareness is, how do you assess things within an environment, is your driving. And so if I step on a toe here, I apologize, but go with me for a second. Do things sneak up on you when you're driving? When you're driving, do you suddenly find yourself in a traffic jam environment where you're having to do a slide stop and it just snuck up on you? Or do you frequently find yourself in an environment where maybe there's an accident up ahead and you're not able to go around the accident and continue with your day because it surprises you and suddenly there's an accident? Does somebody get in your blind spot frequently and then you go to change lanes and surprise they're in your blind spot? That might tell us that we need to work on our situational awareness. So again, if I step on a toe there, I apologize. Just remember, Paul Buckner, that crazy safety guy, he loves you and you're supposed to love me. But it's one of those things that really made me think. This morning I was driving and I'm headed to an appointment in an area I don't normally go to, and I try to have situational awareness very far out, so very close to very far out. And it doesn't have to make you paranoid. You don't have to look like a rabbit. Like right now, ironically, as I'm driving, I'm going this way with the road, there's emergency vehicle lights up ahead on a side road, and it's one of those mornings apparently. But I try to know what's in my blind spot as I'm moving. And so let's go back to the driving thing. So this morning I'm on my way to this appointment in an area I don't normally go into. And as I'm driving, I look up ahead, and about a mile ahead, I see the winky blinkies of emergency lights. It looks like there's been a motor vehicle accident. Well, I don't want to get stuck behind a motor vehicle accident. They've got plenty of first responders there. They do not need my assistance. Not only that, it's outside of the area that I typically help in. So I'm just going to be a rubbernecker to them. In my own area as a chaplain, I'm welcomed at accidents and things because they know that I will help. And so I look up, I was actually changing lanes, I spotted the situation, I was able to take an exit, and not always is this possible, but I was able to take an exit to go around the situation. I try to flow around problems, and Bruce Lee used to say, be as water. I try to flow around them, and a lot of times in life we can smash into problems and smash into situations that we could have otherwise avoided. I was in a drive-through yesterday, and there was a guy that was very obviously mentally disturbed, very obviously high, and he was very jittery. I would say probably methamphetamine at the very least, and he was moving across the parking lot. And I'm going to tell you what, he had my attention. I don't know what weapons he might have. He was a very large guy, and I was watching him, and I noticed several other people in the drive-through line had eyes on him as well. And I had left enough room that I could go around, and I could have left if I needed to. And so I was able to keep an eye on him, and he ended up going up to somebody he knew. They were talking through the window of a car. They actually held hands briefly through the side of the car, so I could tell that there was some kind of a relationship there. And he became occupied with other things. So he ended up not being a direct threat to me, but he was someone that was potentially volatile within my environment. Going back to the car accident situation, and when you're driving, if you regularly find yourself when you're driving having to slam on your brakes, then you might want to work on your situational awareness, and that comes over into church safety, because I'm going to put two angles on this. So one, in the church safety world, if you're able to see far enough ahead and keep that going, like right now, this is really funny. God's giving me all kinds of opportunities to draw analogies. There is a construction zone ahead of me on the way that I was going to go, and and they're stopping traffic and flagging them. So I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go around that obstacle. And so once I do this and I'm going to go on with my day, I'm going to flow like water around this obstacle. So you're driving and you're driving your youth group. You've got a choir event. You're going to some kind of an event with folks from your church or with your own family. Are you able to flow around certain obstacles without breaking the law or endangering people? That would say something about your situational awareness. And you can watch tons of videos out there. There's no reason for me to reinvent the wheel. There's amazing videos and books on situational awareness. We can get so hung up on cool guy gear, being tactical, that we forget to be practical. You know how I feel about that. And so we can sharpen our situational awareness. Remember when we were kids and we played like license plate games or I Spy? It's kind of like that in life. And so that's a thing. Now imagine that you're trying to get someone to the hospital. There's been some kind of a terrible event. You're trying to rush somebody to the hospital. They've been injured. And you know, I've been in a couple of these, you know that it's actually going to be faster to evacuate, to self-evacuate and get to the hospital than it is going to be to wait on an ambulance. Years ago, you probably heard me tell the story. There was a gentleman that he injured himself terribly at an event, a firearms related event, 45 minutes from the nearest hospital. So we would have been waiting, and there were no ambulance barns and things like that in that area, where in my area a lot of times you'll have some type of a EMS crew will be attached to the local fire department, but a lot of those fire departments, you go out there far enough and you may not have any kind of rural ambulance, anything. So if you're from the big city, it's just kind of a different world. I've waited 45 minutes for a brush truck, a very small fire truck with a very small pump, to show up to help me with a fire, and then the equipment on the truck didn't work. As I recall, the generator didn't work on the truck. So being rural can be a problem. So if you're in a rural church environment, think about that when it comes to your church safety, whether it's fire or whether it is medical. And then in another instance where it was also firearms related, a guy got a terrible slide bite. He made a mistake with how he gripped his firearm. He needed 8 stitches. I have personally never witnessed a worse slide bite than that man had received. I've seen photos of them, but I've never witnessed anybody receive a slide bite worse than that. We were able to bandage it. I was there as a competitor, and then in between times I was doing range safety. And there were 3 IFACs on site. We were able to get him bandaged up and get him in a vehicle to get to an urgent care facility. And the evac was much, much faster doing it ourselves. Another thing about situational awareness, do things like stoplights and stop signs, ironically I'm pulling up to a stop sign, do they sneak up on you? Do people turning sneak up on you when somebody's decelerating? Are you finding yourself? It's a sign that we might need to hone and sharpen our situational awareness. And again, I love you. I'm not trying to be a jerk. But if we are inattentive in those moments, it might be something that's happening in the rest of our life. Are we able to continue to look around and to move? There was a cone for a utility company on the side of the road there. I had to move slightly over in the road. You know, do you find yourself with those situations where they sneak up on you? Now let's take this over into church safety at our church proper. That level of situational awareness where we're looking around and seeing situations and going, okay, and we're seeing these things before they happen. If you're able to look, and a lot of people when they drive and when they just look in life, they're looking 35 feet away. And I kind of do it. I'm not saying this is the way to do it, but this is how I do it. I do it in rings. So if I'm at a set of gas pumps and I'm looking and I need to revisit a situation, I'll do it in another video, but I need to revisit a situation years ago where I was able to spot an actual pedophile and alert the family that he was staring at their children. I'll tell that in another instance. Maybe once I finish my morning service calls, I'll record that one as well. But one thing being another, at gas stations or when driving, I'm looking 35, 45 feet out. There's a gentleman walking in the ditch about 25 feet from me now. And so I have that sphere, and then I push out a little bit further. You know, who's pulling up to the intersection to turn? There's a guy actually, ironically, pulling up to an intersection to turn now. And then I push it out even further. And when I'm able to do that, like I'm trying to look for anything that could be an obstacle, and it's just a thing that my brain is trained to do. Now, coming over into church safety, the farther out you can see the threat, you hear the squall of the tires, you orient, you look, you realize somebody's flying into the parking lot, you realize you got your radio ready. Is it a lockdown situation? You know, we need to be aware that things are going to happen where, as churches, more and more churches get AEDs. As I'm driving, there's two guys walking, and a guy turns around and throws his hands up in a either an "I don't know, I don't care" gesture or a high school "let's fight" gesture as I'm driving, and I look over, and it's two teenage boys playing, and I think it was more "I don't know" than it was anything, but they're outside playing with some kind of Nerf guns. Might have been "come at me, bro," and so keeping that kind of situational awareness up. Then, going back to the church situation, are you able to orient on it and see that thing far enough out to be able to be prepared to go into lockdown or whatever it is you're trying to do? So on that note, I'm going to shut this one down, folks. I'm headed into the driveway of my appointment. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. Remember, semper disciplina, that lifestyle of discipline and training. God bless.
If you enjoyed this microsode, check out the video and audio versions of the Let's Talk Church Safety and Security podcast.